If you're a brand new teacher, there are three things you're going to have to do in order to survive those first couple of years.
I will survive. I will survive.
Without these three things, you're going to have a hard time surviving and making this job into a long life career. So here are the three things I wish I knew when I was a brand new teacher. Number one, you're going to be tired. Man, I'm going to tell you, there is tired and then there's teacher tired. I think in my entire life, the only other time I've been more tired than being a brand new teacher is when I was a brand new father. Oh my Lord, I'm telling you right now, you're going to be staying up late. You're going to be waking up early. You're going to be constantly thinking about work. If you're a brand new teacher, I hate to break this to you, you're going to have to put a lot of hours in. You're just going to have to. There is so much that goes into teaching. And when you're in college, I mean, they make it look real easy, right? When you're in college, you got your classes, you got your things you're doing, your lesson plan, everything else. But when you're in those trenches, man, there are a million things coming at you at one time. And you're trying to deal with it all at the same time. It's exhausting. It just really is exhausting. So to be 100% honest with you, prepare yourself. Prepare yourself for the first year, 2, and 3 to just be worn out, because you're going to work harder than you've ever had before. Don't get me wrong, it's very rewarding work, and you definitely can have fun doing it, but you're going to have to be putting some hours in to get to where you need to be. So those first couple of years, I would honestly, I think I'm thinking back when I was first teaching here, man, I'd go to work probably about an hour earlier than everybody else. And then I'd probably stay about another 4 hours after work. So I was putting in about 12 hours those first couple of years, just trying to stay ahead of everything. And those first couple of years for me, they were awful. They were awful. They were rough. But that's what it's going to take. Now, it does get better. Now, I've been doing this 20 years now, so it does get better. And now I can get that at a reasonable time and leave it at a reasonable time. Those early years, though, I'm telling you, you are going to be exhausted. So just prepare for that. Number 2, the reason you're going to be so exhausted because there's this learning curve. Just like anything else, there's this learning curve to get the skills needed, to get the information needed, to get those routines put in place. So it's going to take a while to get to that point. I remember early on in my career, and in fact, the very first year of my career, our principal showed us this graph. Now, I was having a rough year, and I almost got fired my first year, and I was really doubtful whether or not this was a good career choice for me. And so he showed us a graph, and here's what the graph looked like. You basically, it shows teachers their career, and it shows year 1 teacher, how many stayed after year 1, how many stayed after year 2, 3, 4, 5. And what you see is you see this sharp decrease, right? First year teachers to all the way to 5th year teachers. Up from 55% of teachers made it to year 5. That means 45% of teachers that joined this field, that went to the school, that did the education, did the 6 years of schooling, did the testing, 45% of those teachers that start never make it to year 5. Now, most people would hear that and think it's very depressing. And honestly, there is some sad things about that. It just tells you how tough the job is. But back for me, 20 years ago, when I first saw that, it gave me hope. Because I thought I was the only one in this. I thought I was the only one struggling. I thought it was all me. And I realized after I saw that graph, it's not just me. It's this career. It's this job. It is a tough job. And once again, only 55% of the people, teachers, make it to year 5. But then here is what gave me hope. Here's what gave me hope, is when they made it to year 5, it kind of started plateauing out. And so in my mind, the goal I set for myself was make it to 5 years. Make it to 5 years. Because if I can make it to 5 years, then I'm one of those 55% that stayed with it. And then I actually have a chance of making this career. Once again, there's this learning curve that goes on. That is why the first couple of years are so exhausted, because you're trying to put those hours in. How does that saying go? It takes 10,000 hours to master something. And that's about 5 years of teaching, 10,000 hours. So you're going to have to put the time in somewhere to get the skills, to get the routines, to get everything in place. It's required to become a good teacher. So the first couple of years are going to be exhausting. There's this huge learning curve. Be patient with yourself. I mean, you definitely have to learn the skills. You definitely got to learn the things, but be patient with yourself because there's so much to grasp those first couple of years. And the third thing I wish I knew was that it's all about classroom management. When you go to college and you're taking the courses and they're talking about all this differential instruction and this and that, and then when you finally get in the classroom, you realize everything they told you was almost worthless. It really was. Because when you're in that classroom, what's most important is that classroom management. And the classroom management kind of tricky thing here. What exactly does that mean? It just means that you're able to function in your class. You're able to carry out lessons in your class with the least amount of disruptions. We'll say that, okay, with the least amount of disruptions. Sounds easier, right? And if you never did teaching before, piece of cake. It's not. I remember when I first got to college, man, I worked on those lessons. Once again, put the time in, right? I put the time in, staying up late, waking up early. And I created those lessons. I had some great lessons. And then I'd take it to the classroom, and one of two things happened. I would have half the kids kind of just zone me out, and the other half were causing disruptions. Nobody was learning. Nobody was, correction, maybe 3 students were learning. But reality is my lessons had no effect upon my students. But the reason for that is because I lacked the classroom management. I didn't have the routines in place, the systems in place. I didn't have the respect of the students. I didn't have everything in place needed to run a classroom effectively. So once again, 20 years teaching, and I can tell you from experience, it goes like this. I've never seen a teacher get fired because they didn't implement a lesson properly, or because some of the test scores are even too low, or because, all these different reasons, all things we got to do as teachers. I've never seen a teacher get fired for those, but I've seen a lot of teachers get fired because of classroom management. The classes were out of control. The students weren't paying attention. There's problems in the classroom. And it seems unfair though, right? It seems unfair because we're doing what we need to do, but the reality is if you don't have classroom management down, not only are students not going to learn, it's going to look bad upon you. And as hard as to say, there's a chance you may not make it. In fact, my first year, I almost got let go because I did not have effective classroom management. So don't get me wrong, you still need to focus on other things. Still want to, make sure you got good lessons, and that all helps classroom management. But you need to get that down before anything else. And then once you have that foundation of classroom management, then you can implement all those grand ideas you learn at college. But classroom management is king.